Hello, I'm Jacqui Felgate. Great to be back on the House of Wellness with Luke Darcy, Joe Stanley and Dr Nick Carr. Hello, guys.
Good to see you, Jack.
Now, today we are celebrating something we either have been, we know, or we have, and that is the teenager.
It's a turbulent time, Jack. Let's be honest, for kids and us adults as well. Fortunately, we all only have to go through it once.
Well, as mother to a beautiful teen, and I know that you've got 4, I've only got the 1, but it is very challenging, I acknowledge that, but it is so rewarding. And you know what? These young people are the leaders of the future, and they have so much potential, so I consider it a great privilege to be able to raise and guide them.
And it may be hard to believe, Joe, but the teenage brain is growing at an incredible rate, which is why it's a time of so much emotional as well as physical growth. And I know it can lead to all that sort of eye-rolling and door slamming, but it's also when they develop their passions, their interests, and they start to work out what they want to do with their lives.
And Nick, one of the things I love about kids, I think they remind us to have fun and that life is about fun, which we need more of. So today we're focusing on teens, starting with the advent of social media.
It is a big bugbear for any parent. So many parents are very keen to see warnings on social media. Also today, does the oldest sibling have it tougher? We'll take a look at eldest daughter syndrome.
And we deliver all the health tips for how to get through winter, including the unique yet ancient practice of hot sand therapy.
We'll also take a look today at one of the biggest issues for Aussie parents. It is, of course, tech and screen time. Well, there's no easy solution, Jack, especially when large companies are mining our kids' data and then targeting them with sneaky marketing campaigns to introduce them to things that we would never allow.
I fell in love with sport, I reckon, when I was about 5. I remember even from grade 1, I could do my times tables by 6 because of, in the points of footy, and that was from a young age going to the footy with my dad and my brother, and I just loved it. The goals and the crowd and the close games and the passion, that's really what drew me into it. Nice and light, just a warm-up. Ready? Let's go.
Youth soccer coach Fred Rubenstein has always gotten a kick out of the highs and lows of sport.
Done! Great smother.
But at a young age, his passion for winning began to mutate into a harmful obsession.
My first very early exposure, I would say, is when I was 9. I was with my dad and my brother in a cinema room for the grand final day. There was a guy going around with a hat, and you put $2 in the hat, and you get a name for the Norm Smith. And the guy that I got, Andrew Embley, he won. And I remember it just lit me up like a Christmas tree. I started gambling regularly when I was 14 or 15. At the time, it was just $5, $10, which was my pocket money at the local venue. And the day I turned 18, I went to the bank to get access to my inheritance. That's when it really kicked off. And yeah, my inheritance was about 225 grand. And over the year, after I finished school, I dropped out of uni, and throughout that whole year, I was just gambling pretty much all day, every day. Then I'd wake up, bet on the footy, soccer, or if it was a weekday, I'd go to the pub with mates, started betting on dogs and horses, stuff I really didn't know anything about. And then I would go from there to the casino, and I'd be there from anywhere between 10 p.m. to 6 a.m, and I'd lose like 2 to 4 grand a night. I had one moment in the casino where I went to the toilet and I just broke down crying. And I was so unself-aware at the time that I was like, why am I crying? Like, what's going on here?
Over the course of 1 year, Fred lost his entire inheritance. Still, his addiction continued to consume him.
I started borrowing from my friends, and I actually stole my mum's credit card. The first 2 times she caught me, she gave me a slap on the wrist. She said, don't do this, like, stop gambling, this is bad, like, don't go to my accounts. I just said what I had to say to get off my back so I could keep gambling. The 3rd time I did it, I saw a side of my mum I've never seen. She said, if you do this again, I will call the police and I'll press charges against you for theft. That was my rock bottom. I wasn't happy being a lying, stealing gambler. I think I'm pretty kind by nature, and I'm not someone who wants to hurt other people. So I wasn't happy, but I was obsessed and consumed. Tag, well done.
Fred's story of a destructive addiction deep-seated before his 18th birthday is devastating to hear, but it's an increasingly common one for young Australians.
A recent Victorian prevalence study showed that about a third of high school students have engaged in gambling in the last 12 months, and about 20% of those were gambling monthly, and then a further 8% were at risk for gambling harm.
Dr. Simone McCarthy is a research fellow at Deakin University's Institute for Health Transformation. She says the aggressive marketing for online betting companies in modern media has made today's teens frighteningly familiar with the ins and outs of sports gambling.
We've done research for a decade now, and we've talked to young people as young as 8 years old who can tell us the names of betting brands, they know which colours they are, they know exactly how they would put on a bet because they see the ads that show the phone and exactly how you would put on a bet. The marketing makes it seem a normal thing to do when you're an adult, and that's what we're really concerned about, is this exaggerated perception that everybody gambles and it's a normal and socially valued activity.
Nice lift, Seb, great push.
I know of people who wouldn't be 18 and would be gambling and would be talking about it in society like it's something that they should be doing.
Take, well done.
Pretty much as soon as we turned 18, there were people with accounts in our friend group and sort of had a few bets sort of before we turned 18, which we shouldn't, that shouldn't be a thing.
Beautiful.
In Victoria alone, an average of over 900 gambling ads airs on TV every day. But according to Vic Health CEO Dr. Sandro Di Maio, the real threat to young people's wellbeing is the marketing they're exposed to on social media.
When we look at the major social media companies, the tech giants that we all interact with every day, we know that the average Australian child, by just the age of 13 years, will have had 72 million data points collected on them by these companies in the digital space. Now, this is not a space that kids can avoid. It's where they're learning, it's where they're growing, connecting. Sometimes, it's where they find their first job. But we know that every time young people spend a moment in the digital space, their data is the commodity, their attention is what is being, sold off to the highest bidder. And an example of that would be that you have, a young man that has addictive tendencies. They would be able to work that out based on the algorithms and based on the data that they're collecting. And they would then be able to target those individuals with products that are addictive and ultimately very, very harmful to their mental and physical health. And of course, examples of those would be e-cigarettes. They would be, junk food, and of course, gambling.
The social media platforms have their own rules about exposing young people to gambling advertising. I know on TikTok they say they won't show gambling ads to people under the age of 21, except we've heard from young people that they do see gambling ads. We know that young people don't always put their correct age in when they're signing up for these platforms to be able to get around the restrictions, and they can see all the content they're interested in.
Well done. Great shot, Miles. Great save. So I haven't gambled in 7 years, and I can say it's a completely different landscape. Like, it was accessible and it was online, but it wasn't as much in your face as it is now.
I think what's even more concerning is that the marketing is becoming more and more predatory and more sophisticated. It's what we call dark marketing. So it's marketing that you may not even realise is in fact marketing. It might be an influencer talking about something, being paid by the company to talk about it, but not declaring that it's marketing. It might be, a game in an app that starts to socialise the idea of gambling before a child is legally allowed to have gambling pushed on them. And that's not by accident. That's by companies preparing a new generation of consumers, children, to engage in a behaviour that ultimately comes at a huge social cost.
Every parent wants to protect their kids from dodgy material online. And in the US, there's a push for new laws that would require social media platforms to contain warnings about the association between significant mental harm and adolescence. And with 95% of kids aged 13 to 17 on social media, those warnings seem like a very good idea. We're back after this.
Jack, always a big debate in my house this time of the year. Yes. Beck's always cold. I'm always too hot. We fight over whether to turn the heater on or not. How do you go?
Oh, Oh, exactly the same. Actually, that's why we sleep in separate bedrooms a couple of nights a week. I literally do that so I can be warm.
Genius from you. There's a common held theory that women feel the cold more than men. Science is yet to have a definitive proof on that being the case, but it's generally the indications are that women have a higher core temperature but feel the cold more in the extremities in their fingers than toes.
Well, you know, Darcy, it's all about the hormones. So a person's gender may not actually have as much to do with it as someone's physical makeup. For example, if someone has a higher level of body fat, they're generally going to have more insulation. So maybe it comes down to negotiating with your partner more than anything.
Well, I'll tell you something we both agree on, and a game changer for us. Lucky enough to have had a sauna installed at home, one of the infrared. That is brilliant. The health benefits of that are well and truly proven.
I love a sauna. I'm less keen on the cold plunge.
Yeah, fair enough too, especially in the cold of winter. Bring on summer, I say, Jack. Can't wait for it. Speaking of which, time to check in with Luke Hines, who's going to show us a beach-related therapy that can give you the health benefits without needing to get cold or wet.
Remember when you were a kid and being buried up to your neck in sand? We've all done it. In fact, the ancient Egyptians treated all kinds of ailments with hot desert sandbaths. Imagine being cradled by warm, golden alpha quartz sand whilst enjoying a full-body massage. Well, this ancient tradition has been blended with cutting-edge wellness for what I'm told will be unmatched relaxation and healing. It isn't just ordinary everyday beach sand, is it?
No, it's not. It is quartz that's got special minerals in it that will actually help, once it's heated to a certain temperature, it will actually give those benefits to the body.
So quartz is a crystal, essentially.
Yes.
And a lot of people place crystals around the house for, I guess, their healing benefits. When we're talking, you know, I lean into more of the kind of the energy exchange of the things around us. Laying on that and almost having direct contact, that's got to be powerful.
Absolutely. I think the heat and the crystal itself, when you're cocooned on it on the table, it actually just really relaxes the muscles and also any inflammation that you may have.
Now, singing bowls are becoming a whole lot more popular these days with sound healings. When you place a bowl near or on the body, what's happening there?
It's a form of meditation, and what it actually does is bring you to the present moment. So we do use 3 different size bowls throughout the treatment, and we start down at the feet, we do it over the back, around the head as well, and then when we turn you over, we place one on the stomach. Once we've done the singing bowls at the beginning to put you in that relaxed state, we also use poties, so they're warmed up, soaked in essential oils, and then we stamp that up and down the body, so that helps with the circulation and then warms up the muscle, ready for that full massage.
Let's get more into this table. I'm fascinated by it. Tell me more about why it changes angles.
I think with the incline on the table, it just helps with that blood flow. We're always in that one position. So I think moving it down to head down and everything, it just gives you that blood flow to help with the oxygen flow and that within your body.
I think there might be some people who go, okay, a bed of granular sand, am I going to come away with sand, you know, behind my ears and under my arm for the next week?
No, that's a really good question because you would think that. But once you're cocooned on the table, you lay on a very thin PVC mat, so that supports you from laying directly on the quartz, but you still get that benefit and the warmth throughout the sheet.
When it comes to the heat, is it heat like a sauna where I might start sweating?
Not to that extent. I always just like to picture it as laying on the beach on an extremely warm summer's day, and you're moulded into that sand. You've got that beautiful vitamin D on you. It just is that warm, cosy feeling.
Am I going to fall asleep? I'm worried I won't be awake to enjoy it.
You will. If you don't fall asleep, come and see me, but guaranteed you will fall asleep throughout that treatment.
Whenever I'm feeling stressed, anxious or tired, I crave nothing more than heading as far away as I can and just laying on the sand of a tropical island. The fact is that it's not always practical, and that's what I love about this modality, is that I, believe it or not, just moments from home, are laying in sand that feels warm like the sun, but it's not just a massage, there's so much more, there's more modalities. So in 90 minutes,
I'm having a complete healing and recovery experience like none other. Now, there's that saying that if you repeat the same thing over and over, expecting a different result, you're insane. Well, if you're repeating the same wellness modalities over and over, hoping for a different result, perhaps this is something you should try, because if you truly want to feel well from the inside out, you got to mix things up and try something new.
Well, it's no secret that I do feel the cold. Sometimes I have to have up to 3 showers in a day just to warm up during winter. But one thing that I have noticed that the winter cold does to me is that I get very dry skin. It gets itchy and scratchy. And I often wonder if it's because we're wearing so many layers that our skin is just unable to breathe. What do you say to that, Ryan?
You're definitely not alone, Jo. Winter is the worst time of the year for many patients. Many people in general find their skin dries out, gets dehydrated and really uncomfortable.
So what are some of the causes of dry skin and how does it show up?
The most common problem is that in winter, we tend to wear lots of layers, we crank up the heaters around our house, and we really dehydrate the air that we're surrounded in. And as a result of that, we lose a lot of water through our skin. It makes our skin really parched, and that very presence of dry skin really makes us very itchy as well.
So what's some of the best ways to avoid that itchy, dry feeling and stop the skin from drying out?
Well, you're probably going to hate me, Jo, but the first thing is keeping our showers short and tepid.
What?
I know.
No,
I'm really sorry.
I like it so hot that I come out bright red.
You and everybody else, but it's a really common cause of dry skin. The second thing is to really make sure we moisturise generously after our showers. And this is about choosing a moisturiser that you like. We have a lot of very good products here in Australia that are very hypoallergenic, fragrance-free, and making sure we really reapply them generously after a shower is probably the best thing you can do.
So does that mean we should moisturise more in winter? Because I'm very good at moisturising in summer, but what about winter?
Absolutely. Not only should we be moisturising more, but the actual quality or the nature of our moisturiser should change as well. So I tend to recommend more creams and balms, which are thicker, more nourishing over the winter months, and a lighter lotion or gel-based moisturiser for the summer months.
And so there are so many great moisturisers to fit any budget. What do you like to see in a moisturiser?
As a dermatologist, it's really important that the products are as simple as possible. So I recommend products that have a very short ingredients list. The ingredients that I tend to look for include ceramides, which are the naturally produced moisturising factors to keep our skin barrier intact. I like those that are fragrance-free because we know very heavily perfumed products can often trigger skin allergy and skin irritation. And I look for age-old ingredients like niacinamide or vitamin B3 and hyaluronic acid as well.
Jacqui Felgate also loves a good moisturiser, and she's with Ellie McLean, who's all about healthy winter skin from the inside out. I've been lucky enough to be overseas for a few weeks this winter, but now that I'm back, you really notice those harsh cold conditions and how they affect your skin. But it's not just what we put on our skin, it's what we consume as well, isn't it, Ali?
Yep, you're so right, Jacqui. So many people underestimate how much of an impact their diet has on their skin, but it does. It impacts our skin directly and indirectly. And the main things to think about are how our diet impacts hydration and also oxidation.
How good are these types of foods for our skin?
Well, obviously we've chosen them for a reason. So top of the list is our oily fish here, so salmon, but also things like trout, sardines and mackerel would do the job. These are rich in omega-3 fatty acids, which are really important for supporting the skin layer in our skin as well as hydration. We've also got avocados, which would do a similar job, yes. Then we want our vitamin C rich foods, so strawberries, our citrus, we've got tomatoes over here. These are going to support the oxidation and reducing risk of oxidation in the skin.
And Ali, when the seasons change, how important is it to think about seasonal eating?
It's so important because as the seasons change, how easy is it to delve into your standard comfort winter foods?
Hot chips, pastas,
wine,
all the wine.
And look, ideally these things would be had in moderation because alcohol dehydrates the skin. Our hot chips are fried, they're ultra-processed, which can also dehydrate the skin and oxidate the skin. So ideally, we'd be looking at lots of hydrating foods. So in the winter months, that would be soups and stews, and thinking about what we put in there as well. So lots of vitamin C-rich vegetables, antioxidant-rich vegetables, and even things like offal products can provide a lot of vitamin A and antioxidants to supporting the skin.
I think a lot of people are a bit scared when we use the term offal, right?
Yeah, look, we don't have to use offal, but that would be next level in terms of supporting our skin health over winter.
And when it comes to all these amazing foods here, there's even more to them because we can put some of them directly onto our skin as well.
You absolutely can. So things like cucumbers are incredibly hydrating, and perhaps we know about cucumbers because you commonly see them put over the eyes in facials. Things like avocados are really hydrating for the skin. Maybe not your cheapest skin hydrator, but you can absolutely mash that and put it on the skin.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yogurts. Yogurt's rich in probiotics, also very hydrating, and can even exfoliate the skin if we put it on there. And aloe vera. So how many of you have got an aloe vera plant in the garden or in a pot inside? Aloe vera is also very protecting and hydrating for the skin.
Ali, how good. So food and a facial 2-in-1. Thank you.
Right. Thanks so much for having me.
OK, coming up next on the House of Wellness, stay tuned, especially if you're the eldest daughter, because we'll explore how that can affect your behaviour. That's next on the House of Wellness.
Mental health is obviously really important for all genders. Biologically, there are a lot of things that differentiate women and men. Menstruation and birth and pregnancy, physical conditions like endometriosis, PMDD, polycystic ovary syndrome. And each of these things can affect women differently throughout their life. And the unique factors that come from suffering certain conditions or experiencing certain hormonal changes can lead to higher rates of mental illness in women compared to men. The Liptember Foundation is the trusted source and respected leader when it comes to women's mental health in Australia, and we work with a bunch of community advocates, allies and respected researchers in the space to make an informed impact. How we support women's mental health is through a variety of ways. One is obviously a big one, which is running our research and advocating strongly at a national level to make sure that we get adequate funding provided for women in each federal budget, making sure that organisations understand the need to tailor their specific programs and initiatives to get better outcomes for women. The Liptember Foundation's Women's Mental Health Report was launched in July for the 2024 edition, and that particular report really focuses in on what kinds of issues are underlying women's mental health this year and what the trends have been. The top 3 issues affecting women in Australia were depression, at 46% of women being affected by depression, followed by anxiety at 41%, and then body image issues at 29%. So they're still relatively high. Those numbers are still floating at those same figures year on year from 2022. However, the upside, or some positive statistics that we found, is that body image issues, although still the 3rd largest issue that women are facing this year, has decreased from 2022's figures. We've also found that women are really reluctant to seek help for a multitude of reasons. Our research shows that they like to put other people first. They're always putting themselves second. They take on a lot more of the household responsibilities, typically. There's just a lot going on, and the mental load that comes with that, and managing your family and work and your social life as well, it doesn't really leave a lot of time for women to look after themselves. So they kind of prioritise everyone else and put themselves in the back seat, which is what we want to change. One of the things viewers can do if they really want to help get involved with the Liptember Foundation and the work that we do is obviously support our Liptember campaign, which happens in September. And that's about popping a bit of Bright Lippy on, getting sponsored for the month, and making sure that you can raise awareness, start mental health conversations, and raise a little bit of money by having a little bit of fun. We'd love for people to go out, buy a Liptember Lippy and support us through Chemist Warehouse stores as well. Our mission is to make sure that every woman can achieve their optimal mental health. And I know that sounds a little bit crazy because optimal is different for every woman and it's dependent on their situations and their circumstance. So you can't eradicate mental illness, but you can definitely make sure that you can support women adequately when they've got access to services. Starting on yourself early will not only benefit you, but it benefits everybody around you.
Liptember is a fantastic way to support women's mental health, Jack.
Well, what's shocking, Jo, is that 1 in 2 women are experiencing a mental health issue, yet less than half are seeking help. And I think we really need to break down those taboos.
Absolutely. Well, while we're on the topic of women, the term eldest daughter syndrome is taking social media by storm. It relates to 8 features that are common in the eldest daughter in a family. And as you are the eldest daughter, Jack, let's tick these off. They're a fun set of features. It's an intense sense of responsibility, overachieving, worrying a lot, people-pleasing, struggling with boundaries, resenting siblings, feeling guilty and having difficult adult relationships.
Well, Jo, I'm worried about how many of these I'm actually going to have to confess to, but it seems to have resonated, eldest daughter syndrome, with many women. So we've checked in with our resident clinical psychologist, Kimberly Sterling, to see if it is a true phenomenon.
Well, it's interesting because we're using the term eldest daughter syndrome, but really it's based around birth order theory, which doesn't really bring gender into it too much. But I think from a gender perspective, I mean, in our society, women are shaped into these roles a lot of the time, to be the caregiver, to be the one who's responsible for thinking of other people and making sure everyone's taken care of, which is wonderful and also can sometimes be unhelpful in our culture when that's really a firm expectation and it gets in the way of what women want to be doing for themselves. So the traits and behaviours that are going to be most common here are really a belief that it is their role, that's their responsibility is to be that additional caretaker in the family, to be like an extra parent, if you like, and look after their younger siblings or even look after their parents in some instances. And so in terms of behaviours, we might observe that they might be quite passive in their behaviour. They might tend to always be considering other people and not prioritising themselves, or just have a lot of difficulty with assertiveness when they're getting older.
So, Jack, tell me, do you have difficulty asserting yourself?
Not the asserting part.
I have trouble believing that.
No, I don't. But there was a few things on that list that I was thinking about. One was actually feeling anxious. I worry a lot. And my husband always says to me, you worry if you've got nothing to worry about. And I wonder if that's an eldest daughter thing because you feel pressure to make sure everything in your world is perfect?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of sort of fixing things in families, I think, but also that nature of people-pleasing and needing to overachieve and feeling responsible. I mean, I think a lot of women feel that, not necessarily just women who are the eldest in the family.
I agree with that. And also, I've got 2 daughters. So I am an eldest daughter and I have an eldest daughter myself. And there's definitely a bit of a resentment between the older one and the younger one because we let the younger one stay up at the same time and go to bed at the same time. And she has a lot of anxiety about that. So I wonder how that's going to play out later in life.
But this is all about sort of the amount of domestic labour that kids do in the household as well, and that equality between, I think, boys and girls.
That's
and,
important.
you know, the research is really shocking that shows that on average, girls between 5 and 12 do 40% more domestic labour than their brothers. And that is just reinforcing gender stereotypes that are really damaging.
Not in my house. My kids do 0% domestic labour. They are so spoiled. And my husband, he's the domestic goddess in our house.
Oh, good on him. I love hearing that. Well, we do absolutely cover everything here on the House of Wellness. So coming up, we have a makeup masterclass that will see us create the perfect wing eye.
And Zoe cooks up a delicious burger. Forget about fast food. It will satisfy the whole family, oldest daughter and all. We're back after this.
When it comes to the health of our manhood, many of us blokes wouldn't think to turn to the herbal world for support. But like all parts of the body, herbs have a therapeutic role to play. Serenoa repens, commonly known as saw palmetto, is a type of palm, native to Central and South America. Its berry fruit holds all the plant power, especially when it comes to men's private parts. Traditionally used in Western herbal medicine, saw palmetto helps maintain the health of the urogenital system. This includes supporting the health of the prostate gland and prompting urine output. It's also used as an aphrodisiac to spark sexual desire and improve a healthy libido. Caruso saw palmetto contains a concentrated extract of the fruit, which has been standardised for its valuable fatty acid content. This means you're consistently receiving the therapeutic benefits of saw palmetto in each easy-to-take, one-a-day capsule. We guys can thank our urogenital systems for reproduction, pleasure, and managing the storage and elimination of urine. With so much responsibility, we shouldn't be afraid to explore any avenue that helps get things flowing again.
Nick, the oldest of my two kids are over 18 and the number 3 one's not far from turning 18. So the idea of being able to drink alcohol responsibly is a discussion I think most families are having. How'd you go with that one?
Yeah, it was always tough, that one. And I was a bit of a slack parent, I think. But actually, there's a growing trend amongst young people not to drink alcohol at all, which is really well done you, if that's you. But the latest stats show that 20% of 18 to 24-year-olds are choosing to drink less than once a month, which is so much less than previous generations.
It's a big shift in the consumption for young people. It's quite remarkable. I grew up in a family where having a glass of wine, even as a teenager, was something over a dinner that was acceptable, and normalising it, trying to drink responsibly. And I suppose as parents, we are the role models for our kids in every area.
Yeah, the danger is, Darcy, that it normalises it, because the health advice is that under the age of 18, the best thing is no alcohol at all.
It's a good debate, isn't it? Because I came out of that upbringing of actually seeing it and not pretending it's not happening, and then kids don't get to learn. It's a vexed one, that one, for sure. And I suppose it goes with everything, including diet. We don't want our kids to eat unhealthy food, but banning it all together is a bit of a challenge. So
you know what it's like. You tell a teenager not to do something, what's the first thing they're going to do? It's hard, really hard.
Correct. Here's Zoe Bingley-Pullen with a burger that's based on health, and I think that's a good thing.
Whether it's a scrapbook of recipes or a curated collection, cookbooks are storytelling at its best. Educational and inspirational, and that's why I wrote one. Today, I'm whipping up one of my favourites from the book, my chia beef burger with apple and beetroot relish. Start with the relish. I'm softening red onion over medium heat. Keep it moving to avoid browning. Beetroot delivers earthiness and subtle sweetness, contrasting perfectly with the sharp, acidic green apple. Honey creates that sticky consistency I'm after. Cumin adds warmth plus a hint of spice. Simmer for 15 to 20 minutes. While that cools, it's time for the burger patties. Using beef mince, but if you're veggie, tofu works a treat. All my staple seasonings are here. Sea salt and pepper, garlic, chilli, spring onion, but I'm also adding basil. This light yet pungent herb pairs well with the deep flavours of the beef. Chia seeds go in and on the patties for a bit of crunch, then cook. Build the burger with your go-tos. I'm all about that classic approach, so rocket, tomato and avocado. Don't forget the relish. This recipe is proof that you can be indulgent while still celebrating fresh, healthy food. The messy meals are the best ones.
When the temperature drops, unfortunately, so can the commitment to our wellness goals. You need that extra motivation to get to the gym or maintain the right nutrition, especially when winter has us craving those hearty, carb-heavy meals. With the rise of health trends like keto and low-carb diets that help the body burn fat for energy, promote weight loss, as well as a host of other benefits, finding the right dietary support for these lifestyles can add to the burden. Thankfully, there are food options available that can help you stay on track. Melrose Ignite Keto Meal Replacement is a delicious and satisfying shake that helps keep you feeling full and fueled. Designed with a macronutrient profile to fit a ketogenic diet or a regular healthy lifestyle, it's the ideal on-the-go meal without the sugar and carbs. The range includes indulgent flavours like double chocolate and vanilla that feel like a treat but come with a power-packed nutritional profile. This includes healthy fats like MCTs, hydrolyzed collagen helping to support skin health, and high-quality pea protein. Preparation takes only 2 minutes, just add water and shake. Winter wellness is about finding a balance between taking care of yourself and indulging a little. And with the right choices, you might just be able to do both.
Dr. Nick, there can be no better feeling for a medical person than to see a disease finally eradicated, and I do know that it has been a very long fight against malaria.
Yeah, so it's been one of the global health concerns that's right up there, and half the world's population are at risk. There are hundreds of thousands of deaths every year, mostly in Africa, and really sadly, some of the ones worst affected are the kids.
Which is why it is such great news that babies in Africa will be receiving doses of the world's first affordable malaria vaccine. That is truly a global game changer.
It's an incredible change. I mean, it's taken 30 years. This vaccine has been so hard to make. And now they reckon it might even eradicate malaria within a decade, which would be amazing.
Well, from groundbreaking advances in global medicine to locals kicking goals in the world of health, Jade caught up with fitness and wellbeing app founder Steph CLA Smith.
Steph, we've seen so many of your life stages unfold through social media. Tell me, was there any particular time that made you rethink your approach to beauty?
Yeah, for sure. Having my son, I think a lot of mothers would probably be able to relate to that, but everything just had to be simplified and quicker. I've always liked to keep my look very, very natural and light on makeup and doing very minimal to my hair, so it wasn't a massive change, but most often I'm with him getting ready at the same time, and my drawers, everything's rearranged in my makeup drawers, so the idea of just getting it done as quick as possible is what it has to be these days.
One thing I've always loved about you is you're an advocate for a healthy body. Being mums, having gone through pregnancy, our body changing, it's such a big thing as a woman. How did you navigate through that?
I think body image, it's really funny because a healthy body doesn't look a certain way. And I think it's taken me a really long time to learn that. You know, everyone's got a different body type, different genetics, they've got different lifestyles. We can't all look the same. When it comes to pregnancy, of course, like your body's going to change so much through that process, and then after birth and postpartum, everyone is so different. I've just focused on what makes me happy when it comes to movement. Movement can be dancing, can be riding a bike, can be running around with your kid. Like everything matters and everything counts. But the major thing is just finding something that you enjoy, because if you don't enjoy that movement, you won't be motivated to do it.
You and your bestie and the Kick co-founder Laura Henshaw have an amazing podcast. You are very unfiltered on there, you cover a lot of topics. What has been the most challenging one yet to cover?
The most recent one has actually probably been the most challenging. We sat down and we spoke about and reflected on some of the toughest conversations that we've had. I think when you're best friends but you're also working together, there's a lot of pressure there. We're both taking things way too personally, assuming way too much. And reflecting on it, it feels so good now, and our friendship is stronger than ever because we've made those really hard conversations that you tend to avoid so much easier.
We know that your Kick community is built all on positivity. What is your biggest message for them today?
I think it's just all about treating yourself how you would treat your best mate. So if you're ever feeling down, or if your best friend is feeling down, you're very quick to bring them back up. If they're picking apart their body or what they look like, you're the first person to point out what is amazing about them. So yeah, just try and embody your best friend and what they would say to you in that moment.
Bringing it all back to beauty, what is one makeup skill you'd love to perfect? Don't let me leave without teaching you at least one thing.
Whenever I want to go out and get a little bit dolled up, I really struggle to get the wing. I feel like I'll spend a lot of time on one eye and then I'm never happy with the other eye. So like 2 minutes before I have to leave the door, I rub it all off and I run out.
Yep, that's easy. We've got you covered. Even if we can get you to walk out the door with a baby wing, we're there. Hold the liquid liner in an angle like this. It's literally like a stamp. You stamp it on and then work it back ever so lightly into the lash line. So I like to start with the stamp quite thick, press it on, and then feather it back into the sharpest point, because it is really important to have a sharp point. To lengthen in a modern way, it's all about using a black kohl liner on the inner corner of the eye. What this does is it's not going the whole way through, it's not too heavy, but it will lengthen the eye in a really flattering way. Then to finish it off, grab a really volumized lengthening mascara and just apply it to the ends of the lashes. We have taken on one of the biggest makeup journeys of perfecting a liner. How are you feeling?
I'm actually feeling pretty good. The whole stamping technique, I feel like that's going to change everything.
It will. Report back to me.
I will.
Well, we are shivering through winter, but spring is almost here with flowers and buds starting to appear and just bringing colour back into the world. It's gorgeous.
Beautiful cherry blossom behind us here today too. I love having flowers at home. I think they smell great, they look great, but they're also really useful to cover up messy spots in the home.
Now, Jack, nothing scientific in what I'm about to say, but we all answered a few simple questions to align us with a flower that suits our personality. I'm going to go first. Turns out I'm a sunflower, which apparently means loyal, value meaningful relationships and love the good life, which actually is pretty accurate.
So does it turns out that I'm a sunflower too, and you can add to the list that you just mentioned, always seeking to be the best version of ourselves, that friends rely on us for guidance, and that we love sharing insight as much as gaining it.
Well, look at us standing between a couple of sunflowers here, Jack. Well, I mean, I felt like I was back doing a Cosmo quiz doing this, I have to say. Apparently, I'm a tulip, which is appropriate because I love tulips. They're described as smiles of sunshine. And in case you weren't aware, I am artistic and active, and I have a very youthful energy that can never be forgotten.
Well,
we all knew that.
Well, I'm a camellia, not a chameleon, a camellia, which means you're a natural leader, you're ambitious, and you're really driven in what you do, which I think, look, I'd like to be a natural leader. I don't know if I'm very good at it or not, but yeah, very interesting.
Well, that's all we've got time for today. Thanks to Dr. Nick Carr, to Jacqui, Felgate and Joe Stanley.
Tune into House of Wellness Radio every Sunday with Luke Hines and Gerald Quickney.
And don't forget to check out the latest wellness magazine with a focus on parenting and the great cause of Liptember on the cover.
Big thanks to our friends at Chemist Warehouse. It's bye for now.